Hello and welcome to another video on ChatGPT prompt engineering. So in this video, I'm gonna make a quick recap of the entire course. So first, this ChatGPT prompt engineering course is made by deeplearning.ai, where in here we're gonna see how can we build and use, especially how can we use large language models, as well as how we can build new powerful applications using the OpenAI APIs. So it allows us to build quickly capabilities that were cost prohibitive, highly technical, or impossible before now. So this course here, it explains how LLMs work, how to write effective prompts so you interact with these LLMs, as well as see how you can use large language model APIs to Jesus. How show how LLMs APIs can be used in applications for a variety of tasks like summarizing, inferring, transforming, and expanding. Okay, so understanding at least the basic use case, as well as looking at some principle of how to writing a effective prompts, as well as to get a hand-on experience on building a chatbot. So this course is taught by Isa Fulford from OpenAI and Andrew Ng from deeplearning.ai. So the introduction of this is, most of the time in 2023 we saw is a lot of articles like 30 prompts that everybody has to know, and these are great for the ChatGPT web interface for a variety of tasks that a lot of users are doing, but for one-off tasks. So the power of this is for the developers that allows to build applications when you use APIs like OpenAI to interact with these large language models. So Andrew Ng is the co-founder of Coursera and the founder of deeplearning.ai, as well as the Isa Fulford from OpenAI, and they started to mention that in the development, so you can think of this large language model as someone that is smart enough but doesn't know the details. So by providing context, for example, when you ask for, give me more about Alan Turing, so it is helpful to give the model context. Okay, what you want to know about him, his scientific work, his personal life, his role in history, or something else, as well as the tonality. So give me this in a journalist way or in a professional journalist, as a professional journalist, or something more casual. So in the development of this large language model, Andrew Ng mentioned that we have two, broadly we have two types. So the first is base LLMs, where this predict what is the next likely word. So for example, if you prompt things like, once upon a time there was a magical unicorn, the model will likely to complete with that live in a magical forest with all her unicorn friends. However, when we prompt things like, what is the capital of France? Okay, the model will likely to complete with, what is the France city populations? So what is the French largest city? So what is the currency of the city? And it does that because articles on the internet that was used to train this model are likely, or it's very likely to have a quiz of questions about the country of France. Okay, so in contrast with this instruction tune LLM, okay, so it attempts to follow instructions where once you ask the model like, what is the capital of France, the model will likely to complete with France. The capital of France is Paris. Okay, so this instruction to LLM start with, or the way how you build this instruction to an LLM is like, you start with a base LLM with huge amount of data, and then you further train it to tune in with input and outputs that attempts to follow instructions using refined techniques like reinforced learning with human feedback to make the model much more helpful and useful. So people behind the scenes make the model to be honest, harmless, and helpful. So you're less likely to get problematic or toxic output. So then I look at the guidelines, okay, especially how to write effective prompts. So you have two principles: write write clear and specific instructions, as well as couple tactics to do that. Like, first, use the limiters to clearly define different part of your inputs, such as triple quotes, triple backticks, triple dash, uh, angle brackets, XML tags. Ask for structured JSON or structured data, JSON, HTML. This is the second tactics. The third is check if the model satisfy the conditions you provided them, as well as few sharding. So give the model a couple examples to do the task, and then let the model to perform the task. And the second principle is give the model time to think. So much like when you, for example, give a person a complex math questions to give you the answer without giving them proper time to work the solution first, so they will likely to get it wrong. So once you get this erroneous conclusion, so try to reframe that with a series of steps or a change of reasoning. Meaning is tactic one, provide a series of steps to complete the task. Okay, so step one, step two, especially for, let's say, creating is a recipe. Okay, you want to create a AI recipe maker bot, AI bot recipe maker. So giving a particular text input, you're going to identify if there is any instruction in the text. If it is, so this is the way of how you're going to put it, right? So this is step one, step two. Okay, and the second tactics, and the last one, is let the model to figuring out the solution first before rushing to a conclusion. So meaning, when you have a long text, okay, and you want us to, for example, know if the student solution based on a math problem is right or wrong. You instruct the model to first figuring out the solution of the math problem and then compare with the student solutions and give your answer. So tell me if that is the same or not. Okay. All right. So this is the guidelines, and then the iterative process of creating the desired output. Meaning, much like in the machine learning development, when we have an idea and then we have to iterate to the development, or in this case, to the implementation, whether it's with data or code, and then you get the experimental results, you analyze them, you check for errors, and then you repeat the process. In the prompt development, we have something similar to that, which is you get an idea, you write a prompt, you figuring out what you don't get your desired output. Most of the time, this is what end up happening. You refine your prompt. Okay, so you now refine the idea and write a new prompt and iterate that until you get the desired output. So that's great with this iterative iterative prompt development is something that is good for early development. Okay, for when you, especially when you want to deal small data sets, that's great. Okay. So when you want to deal with this small data sets, that's actually great. But when it comes to more mature application, in those cases, it's much better to measure is the performance of the model or the prompt on average and worst case scenario. So you get some metrics based on that. And then, okay, I look at the most common use case, right? Like summarizing. So the great thing of this is that because there's a lot of things to read out there on the internet, we can use ChatGPT to summarize, which is one of the many tasks it can do. In this, so for example, a particular use case is so a lawyer that needs to read a lot of folders, okay, a lot of paper inside folders, a lot of documents. So you can create an interface where what you provide is this text input, and then you summarize this document, make a small summarize of that, and then optionally add a button or a link to dig in more if they wish, if the user wish to do. So that's one use case of the chatbot. All right, cool. Now the other, okay, the other is sorry. The other is inferring. Okay, so anytime you think of this kind of task, according to Isa Fulfer, right? She mentioned that you can think of that where the model takes the text input and performs some sort of analysis. So identify the names, or extracting labels, understanding the sentiment of the text, that kind of thing. So Andrew and G mentioned, especially on the inferring, okay, that if you want, for example, understand the sentiment of a text, this task, okay, in the traditional machine learning development, or in the traditional machine learning workflow, you have is to create a or collect the training data label, or collect the label dataset, train the model, and then figuring out a way to deploy your model somewhere on the internet. And for example, if now you want us to extract names or do other tests, you need to train and deploy a separate model. Luckily for us, and with these large language models, one of the beauty of this is that we can is write a prompt and we get a quick output which speed up the development process. And also the simplicity that by having just one single model to deploy, by having one single model, one API that we can interact that can perform different tasks. And this is part of the chat completion feature of OpenAI. So then here is, well, I look at the keyword or topic that we can use in our prompt, like sentiment, whether it's positive or negative. List the emotion based on a text, as well as the information extraction, like products or company name, that kind of things. Doing multiple tasks at once, whether it's identify the sentiments, list all emotions, extract information, and inferring topics, meaning that you're going to be able to, based on a given text, extract what are the topics on that and then count them. So that's might be a particular use case for that. All right. Yep. And that was the inferring. And when it comes to transforming, which LLMs are very good at transforming its input into another format, okay, such as natural language from one language to another. That's good. The other is for one language to another. Sorry. Language identification, the tonality, or in this case, formal or informal form. Okay, for example, if you add formal form is when you address to a senior or in a professional manner. As well as format transformation. Okay, so transform from JSON to a CSV or from JSON to an HTML, and spell grammar check, spell check and grammar check, right? So Isoful for use ChatGPT for pretty much proofread everything she writes, which is great, completely. And the other is expanding, where this task evolved into provide a small input text, whether it's a series of instructions or topics, and let the model generate a longer input text. So whether it's an email or a message. And this might be useful for a brainstorming partner. Okay? Okay, for brainstorming partner. However, it can be also problematic when it comes to generate spam. So use that responsibly. And in there, I also saw how can we create is an AI bot that generate is text giving a particular instructions of as an AI customer bot. Okay, so it analyze a particular text, and depending of the sentiment of the text, it will generate is a email signed as an AI bot. That's cool. That's very cool. By the way, that's very cool. And then I look at the chatbot. So here with chatbots, which is one of the great thing of using LLMs, is that allows to create our own custom chatbots with a modest amount of effort. So ChatGPT web interface is the way how you have a conversational interface. To have a conversational interface, or the way how you communicate with with an LLM. Okay, so a conversational via a LLM. Uh, so if you want, for example, to create your own custom chatbot, all right, based on a series of inputs, let's say an AI customer for an AI customer service agent, an AI order taker for a restaurant. Okay, so ISA-Fulfur is going to describe the component of OpenAI chat completion features in more detail. Mhm. So ISA-Fulfur is going to describe the component, but it's this. So in this section of the chatbot, all right, in this section of the chatbot, um, yes, is to see how we can create, or one of the things about LLMs is that allows to create our own custom chatbot or generate our own custom chatbot with a modest amount of effort. And so, for example, the ChatGPT web interface is the way how is the way you or is the way for you to have a conversational interface or a conversation via an LLM. So you can use this to build an AI customer service agent or AI order taker for a restaurant. And in this section, we're going ISO-Fulfur describe is the components of the OpenAI chat completion feature. Okay, so you can build a chatbot for yourself. So chat models like ChatGPT are actually trained to take a series of message as an input, okay, and return a model response generated message. And the core concept here is it is generated. Okay, so but after all, you are generating is a an application. Okay, you're generating is a bot or an agent, a conversational style for this. Mhm. A conversational style for this. Okay. So yeah, the chat models like GPT are trained to take a series of message or a list of message as an input and return a model returns a model generated response, a model generated message as output, right? So anytime you interact with as a user, when you write a message, it takes this series of message as input to the assistant, and the assistant generates the output or generate a message based on your input, right? So you have is this continuous feedback, right? So in this example, when I look at the component of the chat completion features, what you have is the system, assisting, and the user. So the first message is the system in this case. So the first message is the system where you gave an overall instructions, okay? And then after this message, we have term between the user and the system, the user and the systems, and this will continue, and this will kind of continue and go on. So if you have used ChatGPT web interface, when you are or when you send message, you are sending them to the assistant. All right. So the system message kind of set up the behavior of the assisting, and it acts as a high level instruction. This is message system. So you can think of so you can think of the system whispering in the assisting ear and kind of guiding its response. So without the user being aware of the system message. Another important thing, okay, so anytime you make a new conversation with the chat, okay, anytime you make a new conversation with the chat, uh, standard large language model like OpenAI, uh, each conversation you have with a standard LLM OpenAI chat completion feature, such as ChatGPT, is a standalone interaction. Is a standalone interaction, which means you must provide all relevant information for the current conversation. For example, here, okay, so adding the context, because every conversation you have well, with an LLM like OpenAI chat completion features is a standalone interaction, which means you must provide all the relevant information for the current conversations. So this way the model has all the data it needs from the current chat. Another important topic here in the expanding is the temperature, which is the degree of the variety of the degree. Yeah. So temperature is the variety, is kind of the variety model response or the degree of randomness. So for example, if you need a more reliable yeah, if you need a more reliable and predictable output, set the temperature to 0, and for more creative outputs, set that around 0.3 or 0.7. Maximum number is 1. Okay, 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 all right. So that'll be all for this video. Take care. Bye bye.